first speech will be given to us by Tony with a speech titled Striped Bass Fishing. This is Tony's third speech in his Competent Communicator book.
Okay, like you said, it's about fishing. Not just any fishing.
Do you need this?
No, that was outline. Not just any fishing, striped bass fishing. So my goal this evening is to teach you three things. One is, what is a striped bass? Two is, where can you fish for striped bass in this area? And number three is, the techniques, or how do you fish for a striped bass? And I'll give you a little background about me and fishing. I started fishing when I was a little boy, and my great-grandparents and my grandparents both had a trailer on a small lake in Indiana, and so we would go up there on our vacations and spend time with them. And the way you fished on this little lake is you go out on a boat in the lake, you got one of those big, long cane poles, 8 or 10 feet long. It seemed like it was 20 feet long when I was little. And the line drops, you got a bobber, a little split shot sinker and a hook, and you stick a worm on it or a cricket, and you drop it in the water and you wait for what's called a bluegill. It's a little panfish. Really good eating fish. Lots of bones, but good eating fish. We bring those in. Big, no, not that big. And then you bring it in, and usually we fry them up and have them for lunch. So that's how I learned how to fish. Now, fast forward to maybe 15 years ago, my oldest son and I were at a bait and tackle show, a fishing and tackle show actually, in Claremore. And we're walking around looking at things, and all of a sudden I hear on the PA system, in 30 minutes there will be a seminar on striped bass fishing. Okay, thought that sounded interesting. I didn't know a lot about striped bass, but I didn't grow up here. But I knew a little bit about it. I read about it in the newspaper in the outdoor section. So I had basic understanding, didn't know how to fish for striped bass. So we went to the seminar, and there were 3 guys from the Striped Bass Fishing Association. In the crowd, there was me, my son, and one other person. So we had a really good one-on-one, learning experience about how to fish for striped bass. They had the equipment, they had a cast net. They showed us how to throw a cast net, the poles and the reels and all that. So, and they even had a bait tank to show you how to keep your shad, your bait fresh and alive. So, anyhow, that's how I started learning about striped bass fishing. Let me start by showing you what a striped bass looks like. This is a striped bass. Okay. I'll show you what is not a striped bass. This is a black bass, or what most people refer to as a largemouth bass. Okay. Quite a bit of difference, right? When you see fishing tournaments around here, this is what they're fishing for, the black bass. So don't confuse the two. They are totally different. This one's long and thin. These actually get very, very large. Okay, they're native to Atlantic Ocean. They like salt water. Okay, but they have them around here. The state record in Oklahoma was caught in Lower Illinois River, below Lake 10 killer, 47 pounds. Okay. So that fish was probably 3 or 4 times the size of the one you're seeing in this picture right here. These fish, the state record, I didn't look it up, but it's probably about 22 or 23 pounds. So these fish get much bigger than these fish. They are also very puissant fish. They're powerful. They fight like you wouldn't believe. That's what got me hooked on this type of fishing. I do like to fish for black bass, but these fish will give you a fight like you're fishing in the ocean. That's why I like it, because you can catch them here in local lakes and rivers. So, now you know what a striped bass is. So the next question is, where do you find them? Okay? The Arkansas River actually has naturally, they actually breed and populate it naturally in the Arkansas River. So this, probably the next month or so, if you were at 21st Street, you would see people fishing off the bank where the zinc dam is, because the fish will come up there and spawn, and they can't get any further than the zinc dam. So that's one place you can find striped bass. The other 2 places are what they call a tail race. A tail race is the river below a dam. For example, if you've ever been to Keystone Dam, okay, when they release water, it goes into the river below there, and when they release water, there's a whole bunch of water and current and so forth below there. So if you fish below, in a tail race, say below a dam, you can fish by a boat, but it's very dangerous because if your boat gets caught in the current, it can sink your boat. So you've got to be very careful and know what you're doing and fish on a boat. Most people fish off the bank. So at Keystone Dam, they've got a parking lot, there's a long ramp you can walk down, and there's a long sidewalk. It's probably 100 plus feet long. And so people will start at the beginning and they'll line up and they'll throw their bait out there and try to catch their fish there. Now, I don't like to fish in crowds, so I'm not a bank fisher. I like to fish in a boat away from everybody else. So I like to lake fish. So if you're going to lake fish, the way that you're probably wondering, well, how does the fish get in the lake if they're not in a river? If they naturally occur in a river, how do they get in the lake? The way they get in the lake is the wildlife department has a stocking program where they actually breed striped bass in a controlled environment. And when they're large enough, say this long, 4 or 5 inches, they put them in a big truck with a big tank of water in the back, and they drive them up to, say, Skytooth Lake, for example, and they dump them in there. So that keeps the population, even though people are catching, they don't recreate in Skytooth Lake. So they constantly have to stock the lake because people are catching and taking them home, they can eat them. So that's how you find them. You can find them in the rivers or the lakes. How do you fish for them? Okay? Striped bass love to eat these little bait fish. These are called shad. You can find them in rivers and lakes all over Oklahoma and Arkansas. Okay? So that's what they like, so that's what we're going to fish with, right? So the way you find these shad is you go to a river in your boat, you throw a cast net. Sometimes you can do it off the bank. Throw a cast net, you pull it up, and you put those shad in what's called a bait tank. Okay? And the bait tanks go from 20 to 50 gallons. If you want to hold a lot of shad in it, you want a 50-gallon one. Now that's heavy because water is 8 pounds per gallon. So that's 400 pounds of water in that bait tank plus the size of the tank. So you got to be careful. You got a big enough boat. If you got a boat that holds 4 people, that's worth 2 people right there. So you better only have 2 other people in the boat to be legal. Okay? But you can take your rod, a hook, a sinker. I like the octopus hooks, which are kind of J-shaped. You hook the shad in the nostrils. It's got 2 nostrils. You hook it in there, throw it out the side of the boat in the lake, and you just wait for them to hit. And when they hit, I mean, literally, you can have your drag set pretty tight, and it will pull your line off the pole. The pole will start bouncing up and down. I took when my son was 3, my youngest son, I took him out there one day, and I said, now, Michael, if you get a bite, don't let go of this pole. Well, he got a bite, and he had a hold of the pole, and all of a sudden, he saw a spider. And so he said, "Spider!" Threw up the pole, and I went and grabbed it, thank goodness, right before it went off the side of the boat and we kept the fish. But you've got to hang on to your pole if you're striper fishing, because those fish are very strong, especially the first few seconds they hit. They will bend your pole over and they will pull it out of your hands if you're not hanging on tight. So if you want to try striped bass fishing, my recommendation is find a guide. There's a lot of guides in this area that will take you out for half a day, morning or evening, probably morning's best. And for about $350 or $400, you can try it out. You can split the cost with 2 or 3 other people, so it's not necessarily that much out of your pocket. This is what a typical striper boat looks like. It's big. It'll hold a lot of people, a lot of weight, the bait tank, and a lot of rods. So if you see a boat like this on a lake, those are striper fishermen. So I told you everything I know. Hopefully you know, well, not everything. Hopefully you know what a striped bass is, you know where you can catch them, and how to catch them. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
That certainly makes me want to go fishing again. All right, next up we will have Grace Wynn